pussy, or he's talking about how
Yeah,
Muslims
that's
are taking
something.
over Germany. It's one of the two. It's either not getting
Okay.
pussy or Muslims taking over Germany.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
only two
usually
things.
their comment. Waiting for it to come up, waiting for it to come up. It'll come up any second now. Okay, there it is. We got a good sound check, and we're live. Okay, okay. There's nobody in the room yet, except for somebody is really hammering us with the downvotes.
Yeah, I'm pissed off somebody recently.
Yeah, that's okay. They can do that if they want. It's just a bot downvote. They use all their sock puppets and their, you know, they don't have to like us. But that's 10 before I even started.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's
Impressive. I mean, it's obviously not going to deter you, but it's really impressive. Before you even begin, they're trying to shit on it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like I said, I had a run-in with that with Atlas Shrugs guy. He's a real moron. He's like a tool.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he's on that. He's a shit poster. So I mean, I don't think he has any genuine personality anyway. So he's just going to go with the shit posting crowd and the Kakistanis and all them dudes. So.
Yeah,
and they're eating themselves alive. If you haven't noticed, they are like they're turning on each other and just devouring each other, just shitting all over each other. So
oh yeah, that's what we figured would happen. I think me and SFN had a conversation about that. Once they didn't have us to go to, once we started ignoring them, they were just going to eat themselves alive, and it was going to be a shit show over there.
Yeah, and it's so funny that so much of that branched out of the skeptard community, because the whole purpose of being skeptical and rational is to have proper discourse. And look what that turned into.
Yeah. Now I was reading heavy about skepticism and the dangers of it this week. And you know what I think? It's just a bunch of it's an immature philosophy.
Here's the thing: all of these ideas, they branch off of, most of them branch off of different disciplines of Greek philosophy, right. And none of that shit was absolute. That everything that we have from like the Aristotles and the Platos, those were kind of back and forth conversational ideas. These were not absolute. This is law. That's why it's called the love of wisdom, the love of knowledge. That's what the very word philosophy means. So to try to borrow from, to cherry pick from one sub-discipline of one philosophy and then say this is how you have to have a conversation is absolutely ridiculous.
Right. You're supposed to take the best from everything there and kind of put out of your mind the stuff that's ambiguous and just crazy bull. But that was Hume in 17. That was back in the John Locke days and everything. And it was a new philosophy that says we have to look at things scientifically, and what he meant by scientifically was empirically.
Yeah.
And they just didn't use the word empirically.
And it's funny because a lot of these, these hipster kind of cynics that, have been coming around, these shitlords, that's not the point. So here's the basic premise for a good discourse or discussion is good faith. And there needs to be some guidelines set between whoever is going to engage in that conversation before anything is had. Yeah. If you're not doing that, then all you're doing is trolling at that point.
Right. There was a great paragraph. I was looking in a medical journal about why autistic kids tend to go towards skepticism. Because they're naturally skeptical, and then that's what they get in their lives. A lot of the psychiatrists, a lot of the medical people use skepticism in that empirical way to find a scientific truth about them. And but they see that, they try to emulate it, but they don't understand it because they don't understand basic emotions. They don't understand humor. They don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand a lot of the things. So it becomes very dry, very maniacal. Everything's at face value, and it kind of tends to lead towards the autistic kids because everything's at face value and everything's taken literally. And so
BuzzFeed recently made a video cracking on 4chan. And I thought that was interesting because whoever did it, you know, BuzzFeed, they're a bunch of fucking morons most of the time. But whoever they did it, they got themselves quite versed in kind of 4chan lingo and humor and whatnot. So they kecked the kecks, and now everybody's losing their mind. Like, what the fuck? What's going on? That doesn't make. So now people from 4chan, they automatically did the downvote campaign on the video. Of course, they would anyway because it's BuzzFeed, right? That's what they do. But I find it really interesting that whoever was behind that video at BuzzFeed did their research, and now they're upping their game in this, you know, the meme wars, you know, whatever.
Okay, yeah, but that's what you can expect from somebody, can't you? If you want somebody to look at our group, you want them to do the research, and then you want them to come with solid ideas, and that way we can discuss it. Not like this milk apple that we get, you know. We hate the milk apple. That's why we use the milk apple like we do, because we hate when they do it, because that's when they come to us with these ridiculous arguments.
Oh, and that's the key, man. So it's not a good faith. Like a lot of us been talking about this ever since the Sunday cast with MR. It's like, you know, it comes down to, all right, this whole, champion freedom of speech, fucking A. But if you don't use any tact, then you're not being responsible with that freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And that's what it really is.
Right. You got to use some etiquette.
You know, every right has an implicit responsibility attached to it. Would you argue that, Joe, that every right or privilege has an implicit responsibility attached to it?
You have the responsibility to be coherent on this thing. And, you know, sometimes we go off, sometimes we laugh and we joke and everything. But when we're trying to talk, we're trying to be reasonable about this, about the Mgtow. And we have a reasonable responsibility to be coherent. We'll answer any question from anybody that comes on. You know, we don't generally, you know, just live in a bubble here. You know, we take on all kinds over the years. Gosh, how many people that we get, you know, the blah, 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 it's blah, 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 this, it's blah, 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 that. So, you know, we try to answer them scientifically. That's what was the purpose of Eli and doing the show with Eli and what was the other cat's name? Charles, you know, so we can open up an honest dialogue.
I don't see that show going very far now that we've kind of stopped engaging. So
yeah, his main group was, well, the group that we brought over anyways, and that was this group. And once we stopped, I looked yesterday and there was 3 views or something like that. And I wanted, you know, but the big thing I wanted to tell him is just be nice about it and say, this is not your target audience. Your target audience is that relationship group. And I'll show you where the relationship group is, because I like to go there and troll sometimes.
A whole shitload. But you know what? They're going to keep... I do searches on the acronym Mgtow all the time, and it's hilarious where and who uses it. It's gotten... So, certainly not in the bigger picture of the world, but on the internet, we've reached a tipping point where it's now... a label that everybody's trying to leverage to get some attention, to get some shine. So.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're tagging it because they got some idea about it. Doesn't mean that they're Mgtow, and it doesn't mean they're going to give good Mgtow advice. It just means they're tagging it because they see it as a market now, and which is a good thing and a bad thing at that.
And all we can do is be present to try to, you know, naturally balance that out. And I think that's what kind of was the, you know, the two things is like, okay, some of them trying to drop the label altogether. Some of us were the mind, no fucking, we keep this shit. It's our shit. Just because they're using it wrong doesn't mean we have to stop using it. And I think that the kind of middle in the road rational approach is the core message, the core Mgtow, the quote unquote monk style shit has to just remain present at the end of the day. Because if we do go away, or if we get defeatist and walk away from Mgtow itself, you know, that's going to leave a lot of dudes high and dry. And I don't think anybody kind of wants to do that at this point. So
it leaves them suspect to that watered down MRA message with that watered down purple pill thing going on, where these people don't have the men's best interest in mind. They're not giving them a true and honest message that's any different that they're getting out there in society.
And none of this is new. You know, every once in a while we'll do research with the early stuff, and it seems like there was there was always somebody trying to infiltrate or usurp or, you know, troll from the moment that you guys started doing anything.
Oh yeah.
You know, like once Mgtow was out in the ether, all bets were off. I mean, it was not safe for anything, you know, because it's, why would it be? It doesn't make sense to us because like things like, you know, asexuality or celibacy or introspection and all that, these things are becoming, you know, just kind of par for the course for us. But for other people, they really are radical. They're more radical than blowing up a goddamn building.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they feel about it.
Oh yeah, they hate it. They want it to go away. They don't want to hear it. They sign into it, and then they think it's something they shouldn't have to hear. And like we say, turn the channel, get a thick skin. If you don't want to hear this stuff, I'm sure there's a million things on YouTube that I don't want to hear, but I don't tune into it and make it my issue. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a thought. Where was I going with that? There was a separate thought before that, but I lost it. Oh, there's MT3.
So is he in?
Yeah,
Get him in?
MT3's in. Yeah, he's got a black box today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
wait a minute. I have a what box?
Yeah, your MT3 box isn't showing up with the MT3. There it is.
There you go. Yeah.
The painting.
Oh man, you know me. It's awful. I'm trying.
Yeah, we were watching your podcast. We were like, "What happened?" And then you got frustrated. I know that kind of frustration when you just can't get the Hangout thing to do what you want it to do.
Well, you know, I was trying to invite you in, but I think I can't remember if you have to be following on Google Plus or whatever it is. I've kind of lost track of the changes. You know,
yeah, it's the Google Hangout. It's better to have the Google Hangout app, and then everything goes through there, and we all kind of know. A little box will pop up, and all you got to do is invite us in. But unless you have that Google Hangout app, we can't find you.
I don't have apps. I have a flip phone, and as far as I know, apps are for smartphones. And
okay.
You school me on that if you want, though.
Yeah, you have a PC?
I have, yes, I do. I have a Hewlett Packard.
Okay, is that what you broadcast from?
Yes, it's a laptop.
Oh,
so yeah, apps are not at this point. Apps are not exclusive. It's not an exclusive term for like tablets or phones anymore. Now it really just means it's almost like a widget or a small program, and so
yeah,
that's how it's kind of it's interchangeable. The lingo changes; it shifts all the time.
Yeah, go to your Google Plus page.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be a problem. Did you get rid of your Google Plus page?
No, I still have that.
Okay, yeah, on the right side of your Google Plus page, you'll see was it Hangouts and then they'll ask you what does it say over on that side? I can't remember what it says over on that side.
Well, if you're logged into Google and you see your icon at the top right, and there should be this little square with many squares in it. If you click on that and click down to more, you'll find Hangouts kind of toward the bottom. I don't know why they put it at the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, you get all those little squares come up, and then go to that.
Yeah.
And if it asks you, you can find it in there too. If it'll say more, and then it'll ask you, it'll give you and then you put Hangouts on there, and then you get like a direct link to everything, and it just kind of makes things easier for us Hangout crowd.
Oh, thank you. Listen, I'm at Google Plus. Tell me one more time. Just take 10 seconds. From your home, where'd you go to find that?
So, all right. So on the far right-hand corner, you should see your icon, which should be logged in.
Yeah.
And then you should see like this little YouTube apps button. If you hover over it, it's a bunch of little squares. It's a square of many squares.
Yeah, I see that. It says apps. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then,
okay.
And then you just go down to more until you find Google Hangouts, and it'll launch for you.
Okay, next time I go do a Hangout, I will try that one, okay? But listen, can I just say that on my last, I had a lot of guys listening to my last podcast. It was just a few minutes ago. And it was about goth students. Do you know about these kids?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I grew up, well, I didn't, my kids grew up during the goth ages, from my youngest daughter, which is still, she's 29 now, but to my, my oldest daughter to my youngest child. They were like fully indoctrinated into the goth scene. It's me that didn't understand it back then. I had to learn it.
So was she wearing black and black lipstick and stuff?
There was one of her girlfriends, a couple of her girlfriends that were into that, and she had quite a diverse set of friends. There was like a cheerleader, and then some goth kids, and then some brainiacs, and then there was a couple gay kids, and then so my daughter was really diverse in her friends.
That's pretty cool.
But, yeah. And she used to listen to like you were talking about, the Green Day, and they were juggalos. They loved the Insane Clown Posse. And
I thought they were a very strange band. I didn't get them at all. They frightened me a little bit, actually.
Yeah. But all my kids turned out really normal. It was just a thing that was like back in my day. It was Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
And that scared the hell out of the parents.
Yeah.
And it was just this kind of normal thing, and I let them go with it. And my son used to go to the juggalo things, and they usually had them on the farms and stuff, the open areas, and they turned out all my kids are really normal, and it didn't harm them in any way. I think it broadened their idea of life, and goth, when you look at it, there's some philosophies there. If you talk to the kids.
Yeah, now it's crazy with the internet. Every subgenre has its own subgenres, and every subculture has its own subcultures. So like goth now, it still has a loose connection to like horror movie culture. It still has a loose connection to, emo, which are closely related, which is kind of separate, but they tie. But now there's different ones. So now there's, especially with girls and teenage girls, there's now teenage girls that call themselves goth. And apparently that distinction from regular goth, and I'm like, there's a rabbit hole with all these subcultures, is what I'm saying. Like they just go on and on and on.
Oh yeah. But the goth were they were tolerable. The emos, God, that was the emos with all that emotions and stuff, and I think that's what led to the millennials. Now they seem to be very emotional, very like, I mean, on that podcast the other day when the millennial came in, they don't have no assertiveness.
No.
Yeah, really, Joe. When I was activities director in the schools, so I was trying to find what you might call neutral music.
Yeah.
So I didn't play Nirvana, that stuff, very much. I would test it out in my classroom and stuff. What was odd is I would play music at lunchtime for lunch breaks and stuff, and the security crew loved me because they loved it when I was out there doing something, because it calmed the students down. There was a campus, junior high campus of 1,200 kids. So, music's a very powerful force. I was always looking for something very neutral, And one time I used to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and not because I was weird. I was just looking for stuff, And this Amanda Bynes girl came up.
Okay, Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, she's had trouble later on in her life, but you know what? This Amanda Bynes, she really had a great. She was really a good little actress, and she had good comedic timing, and she was kind of pretty, and she had this. She would have bands on, and I would find music on her Saturday show. In fact, there was a Spanish show called Xuxa, XUXU, that the Mexican kids loved. I found music from that too. But Amanda had this girl on one time, and I couldn't quite understand it. And the girl was really cute and singing funny songs. And she said, I want to thank something E, and I couldn't quite catch it. And I talked to my son later. I said, it was something E? And my son said, well, that's vitamin E. And there was this funny redheaded girl named Vitamin E who did the graduation song. Maybe you've heard it, because I bought that girl's CD. It was very funny, and that graduation song was used for a couple of years after that for junior high school graduations. And that was Amanda Bynes, who later, when she was 21, she had $1 million and she's got a lot of problems now. It's too bad. I mean, but you know what? If I was 21 and had $1 million, I'd probably I might have been really messed up too. I might not have wound up as a teacher. You know, I might have been really screwed up too.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine with the kind of with the kind of structure I had in my life, I would have been screwed if I had $1 million.
So, but anyway, that was my take tonight on the goth, because I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think John Kramer's goth. Okay, and
you think John Kramer's goth? Okay.
And that's why I did it, because I think John Kramer's goth, and that's I did it for him because I like him so much.
Okay, yeah. John's got that little goth personality going.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's very upset that you guys think that Green Day is goth, and he said Green Day is not goth. Damn it! So
yeah,
that's because I'm so old. I don't know shit. That's what it is.
Okay. No, yeah, I don't mind that the kids do that stuff, unless it's, unless it goes to that self-harm thing, and sometimes it does. The goth were kind of known for the cutting, but I don't think that have. I think it's like we have in here. Sometimes we attract the wrong kind of people, and that's the goth attracts that dark personality.
Yeah.
And well, look at this. These kind of subcultures that happen. That's kind of all they were, and it's like it was almost like our Western civilization. It was the death throes of coming to age, and kids were by and large kind of figuring it out with themselves. Consumerism would always jump in because they would pay attention to what the kids were doing and then sell it back to them. However, I think that's gone now. I think instead of like these little weird, subgroups and this, that, and the third, these subgenres or subcultures, I think now identity politics has taken over. That's not a good thing.
Yeah. Now, do they have their own store, the millennials now? I know back in the goth days when I take my kids to the mall, they had the goth store. I can't remember what they called it.
Yeah, they still have that one now. Now it doesn't do as much. I think it's Spencer's is what it's.
Yeah,
is that
Spencer's
what
was the store I went to when I was a kid. There was another one that I was on South Park. There's where they wanted to meet the goth kids, and they had to go down to the goth store, and it's a quite popular store still.
I forgot what it's called, but it's a lot like Spencer's, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a lot like Spencer's. Yeah, but
I like Spencer's.
I love Spencer's. That's where I got my first remote control car at.
Listen, that's where I bought. This is nostalgic for me because they had really nice lava lamps.
Yeah, lava lamps back in days. They had all the games for college games. Yeah. They had a weird variety of stuff that you couldn't find anywhere else. The posters. If you wanted your first, I remember.
Is it Hot Topic?
Hot Topic was the goth store. Yeah, Hot Topic.
Yeah. Okay.
And Spencer's had the. I remember buying my first. What was that? 1972 Playboy girl from Spencer's in that poster.
I didn't know that it was that old of a chain. I thought it was relatively new.
Oh no, they were back. Yeah, they were back when the malls first became a thing. And when I was just a child, 12 to. Old enough to walk around and get around and do things myself, to like 17 when I joined the Army. I often went to Spencer's for, and they had bowls and stuff like that too. Water bongs and.
Yeah, they had nostalgia stuff, but I only discovered them, I guess, about 15 years ago or so. But they had really good lava lamps.
Lava lamps, yeah.
Really good ones, and the ones you see today, like in Walmart, really suck. They leak light out of the base and stuff. Spencer's were really good. I used to run them in my science lab. It was a science lab thing for me.
Yeah. I think we got our first lava lamp back when I was a kid, and my buddy we walked up to the mall, and he's like, "I got to get a lava lamp and a black light bulb."
Well, listen, I have a question for John Kramer here, because I used to track student movements to see where they were coming from. I would try to do that, and I tracked the goth into what I believe it is a movie. the Rob Zombie movie, the Rob Zombie movies.
House of a Thousand Corpses? I think that was his first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, right?
I don't remember, except that a group of college students stumble into the wrong town.
Yeah.
And really horrible things happen to them. And it was just really just a grotesque movie that turned to my stomach. I mean, I thought that you know, that yeah, I thought that movie with Travolta was bad. You know, that true something movie. You know, was very upsetting. But these guys, that Rob Zombie was something else. And I think
did he do the Devil's Rejects?
Yeah, he did. The Devil's Rejects was the sequel to A House of a Thousand Corpses. I think what M3 is thinking of is, I'm not sure if he did the remake to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it sounds like that.
Yes, he did do the remake.
The House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects are really similar to the same story that draws inspiration from Texas.
Yeah, plus he's got one of my favorite guys from the 60s, and I can't remember his name offhand. He does quite a bit of music on that, and the music is from my era.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Pulp Fiction is the first movie that really turned to my stomach with all the violence, but then Rob Zombie really turned it up a notch, and honestly, I got to tell John Kramer that the goth thing led me to that. That's how I wound up there looking at Rob Zombie stuff, and that's where I stopped. I stopped looking at that point.
Oh yeah, that was Terry Reid. You remember Terry Reid, don't you?
No.
Brave Awakening, Seeds of Memory was the song I remember from growing up. Seeds of Memory, and it was a really hippie song, and maybe that's why, because I was in that hippie group. And To Be Treated Right, it was kind of he had there was a cool vibe behind that. Oh man, you guys got to listen to some just go to Seeds of Memory and Brave Awakening and listen to that stuff, and you'll know it right away. It's just some of that obscure music from the late 60s and 70s, early 70s.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino used to make good use of that music too, but I don't, not so much recently, but his earlier films certainly did. So
yeah, I was, you know, I finally had to watch his movies because they really drew me in. But that one, the something 8, the Disgusting 8 or whatever, turned me off. I stopped watching them then. But
yeah, I didn't check that one out. Like I like the classics. Reservoir Dogs is just a classic film that stands on its own, and Pulp Fiction. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people loved it. I liked it.
It was a really good movie. It's definitely a good movie, but it kind of turned my stomach though. It's kind of the violence in it is pretty upsetting, really.
So by all intents and purposes, I think I could have qualified as probably like a hybrid hip hop goth when I was coming up, because I'm 38, but I was well around in the 90s, you know, subgroups. So I would I wouldn't. Well, I dressed in all black, but it was more of a hip hop hybrid stuff, maybe even like a Johnny Cash vibe kind of stuff, or even a Greaser thing. So I had my own thing going on there. Horror movies. I was into horror movies since I was like 9 years old, which is inappropriate. I mean, this suggests that my parents were not monitoring, and that's absolutely correct. They were not monitoring at all. But yeah.
I hated being scared. I liked the old movies, you know, but like Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein. But once the splatter movies came on, and all the spin-offs after that, you know, I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, a lot of people don't know, but the tropes that come from slasher and horror movies, there was a huge turn in the mid to late 70s, which actually it would appear in retrospect to have a very feminist agenda. And now the cat's coming out of the bag because some of the producers and writers and whatnot would actually say, yes, they conferred with feminists to kind of put that in, to shoehorn in these different tropes that we find in horror movies. Halloween, before that, I Spit on Your Grave was the turning point. And that turning point was like revenge porn. And then every protagonist was a woman. It was always like the mousy, nice girl of any given horror movie group. And she would be, you know, she's the one who always survived everyone else and killed the bad guy at the end. Whether it was a monster or a killer, it didn't matter. And that's been the main trope that we've been stuck with. And I think this is what's led into like action movies. Really badass little girl who's just beating the shit out of all these huge guys. And it makes no sense because they got this from the horror movies. We've already had this dumb, unrealistic trope going back 40 years, you know? So.
Yeah, I think G.I. Jane was the first movie I could think of that I thought, wow, that's silly, you know?
Yeah, G.I.
I like G.I. Jane. I think it's an accidental red pill movie, in my humble opinion. I think it's an accidental red pill.
Was the blonde the first blonde movie when she was? That was the first kind of noticed. She was the Baywatch girl, I think, and then she made the blonde. And she was the tough girl. And then I watched. I went back to like the third season of Legends today, Legends of Tomorrow. And I tried to watch the first couple episodes, and instead of now having one strong girl on there, now they have like 4 strong girls on there. And they're all these different ones, you know, one's the different type and the other's the different type. And it's slowly just kind of saturating. So I probably won't watch that one anymore. Yeah, but that's what they do. They bring in 1, and then there's 2 the next season, and then there's 3 strong girls the next season. And it's totally bizarre because they all have these superhuman strength in a normal world.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if I had a daughter, I would be okay with that or something. But there's just something strange about it that you know, it's the idea of it's the antithesis of the, what do you call it, the toxic male, the leader of Canada.
Well, it goes against the damsel in distress motif, which you know has been standard in literature and other mediums for such a long time. So it was directly in violation or in contrast to that. It was very intentful too. And the main reason why they did that was for no other reason but to bring in more girls to the theaters for these slasher movies because they knew something was happening. So a girl who was nothing like the protagonist would bring a boyfriend, or the boyfriend would bring her. He would buy popcorn, and you know they would snuggle when she get fearful. It became like its own little culture thing, and it worked. So, but it's so bizarre because the women that would jump and get, you know, from a horror movie, that right in front of their faces, they're showing this girl who always transformed and became like the alpha badass by the end of the film. Which I think we can all know this will not happen to the vast majority of women when faced with direct danger.
I'm not sure what to make of that. I think you're right about that. I think it's antithetical to nature. Like there's this commercial on right now where the boy and a girl are advertising a Lego set, and it's for the Batman car. Oh. And the girl's acting like she's very enthusiastic about it. But let me tell you something. When I had my when I was doing my science labs, after test day, I would have a puzzle day, so you could earn back. You know, if you solve a puzzle, you could earn back a couple of test points, right? And you could bring in models. So there was this girl that had this Lego set of pink Legos, and I gotta say they were really cool. But she carded them and kind of kept them very sacred, very separate. Separate. You know, so you know, the people are trying to do the logic thing with the girl brain, but they will ultimately fail.
That's the thing I was always thinking with the horror movie mantra. It was a pretty dense blonde girl runs from the violent criminal, and she usually falls and makes mistakes and accidentally wounds him, and then it goes on from there. And that was the mantra, sort of. But now it sets girls up for failure, because if in a real act of violence, if you're going up against a stronger male, and he's a violent strong male, the last thing you want your little girl to do is confront him. You want her to run to safety, and it gives the absolute wrong message to girls, which actually think that they can confront a dimorphically bigger creature.
That's exactly right, and that's a wrong lesson to give to girls and to your daughters.
Yeah, yeah. You want them to be safe. You want them to run. You want them to make noise. You want them to, scream if they have to.
Yeah, that's right.
But don't in any situation. You want them the first and foremost thing. You want them to remove themselves from harmful and dangerous situations.
Yeah, that's what's strange about where we're just misanthropic, altruistic was talking about all the badass female characters we have in movies now. And I'll tell you what, I liked Lucy. I thought Lucy was a pretty cool movie because it wasn't a badass female kicking a bunch of males' asses. It was science. It was, but I mean that whole thing about this little girl, whatever these girls that can kick a bunch of guys' asses. This is just as wrong as some small man like myself. I can kick the ass of some football player.
Yeah. It's a lie, and it sets you up for failure. And failure in this case could mean death or danger. And you're not going to at 110 pounds or 115 pounds, whatever the female is not going to spin kick and scissor kick a Goliath guy like me.
That's right.
It's just not going to happen. You're not going to wound me. You're not going to hurt me. I will flip it off, and it would be laughable.
Yeah. Well, it is just entertainment, but it's kind of that meme that goes out from Hollywood, really. Yeah. And then they have all these other complaints right now, but they're the ones sending out these sort of false.
Right. Now that goes into what's the guy that's under attack now?
Weinstein.
Now he's the guy that's in back of a lot of this. What Hollywood projects in the meme culture, that they want to project a powerful, strong girl and everything. And you can project a powerful, strong girl inside of a feminine way, and she can be smart and intelligent and good at her job and stuff like that, and be altruistic and all those things without giving her superhuman qualities that are fake. There's a way to do it that's proper, and there's a way to do it that could be empowering to the little girls, which you want. It's a good thing. You want the girls to feel empowered and not feel scared in life. But in the other, when you take it too far, like the Hollywood and Weinstein and that whole thing, now they come back and they attack you like they did on him. I mean, it shows you how the whole thing the whole lie just kind of eats itself,
Well, his first line of defense was he had this feminist lawyer. I can't remember her name, but it was a total Andrea Dworkin defense that all men are like that. And the guy was trying to apologize, say I'm a victim, because I'm a victim of culture that I grew up. 60s and 70s, they're all men are rapists. That Andrea Dworkin line. That's where he first went. Though that chick, that lawyer bailed when she saw how really bad the guy was. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of digressing on these movie things.
Yeah, he's a product of his own narcissism, and they don't want. He thinks that's normal to the world.
Hey, Joe, I read the autobiography of Kirk Douglas, the great movie star.
Yeah.
And I loved him when I was a kid growing up. He was like he was in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and he was in the Vikings with Tony Curtis. And his biography, it's all about sexual exploitation as he was growing up, as he was coming in, and there were all kinds of homosexual guys, cutting him out, saying if you don't do this, you're not going to get the part and stuff. There's a whole nother somebody called it the Velvet Underground, or the Velvet Mafia. There's a whole nother level that we're going to start hearing about pretty soon with this Corey Haim boy that died a few years ago. Oh
yeah. Corey Haim's a great example of.
Yeah, some really serious bad things are going to happen with all this, and Kirk Douglas delineated it. I stopped reading it about a third of the way through, because after it became big, it was just he just wrote about all the women he had, right?
Yeah. Now Corey Haim spent most of his money in life on he had like 4 girlfriends at one time, and they all were driving new cars and stuff, and he was just giving away, and he never guarded his money. In his last days of life, was standing next to a dumpster in this old apartment center before he killed himself. And the last interview he had was from this woman from the Guardian or something, and she was doing the interview next to the dumpster where he was standing, and he was on drugs, and he was trying to get clean, and he was broke, and he couldn't understand why he was broke. And man, Mgtow could have set him a couple of links on how to keep your money, you know. But he didn't have Mgtow, like most men didn't.
Yeah, it's, you know, this is a messenger's big question, and you have the great answer for it. You know, how do you reach young men? How do you reach young men with the Mgtow message? And you know, your answer was, well, you can't. You reach men who have gone through divorce. You can reach those guys, you know, but it's hard to reach guys that are, as Mr. Dawson says, they're thinking with their little head instead of their big head. You know, how do you do that? I mean, I remember 3 or 4 years ago asking Mgtow, how do we reach the young men? I mean, yeah, celibacy is easy to talk about for an old cat like me, but not for young cats like those. So, you know, you're right. The message is probably for older guys, and I mean, I did one video on a curriculum for 8th grade boys.
Yeah.
Where it was all about vocabulary. Teach them what hypergamy means. What does gynocism mean? What's misandry? What's Briefold's law? If we could get that vocabulary lesson down to 8th grade boys, but there's no way. There's no way. Yeah. I mean, the feminists are down there. Believe me, the feminists are down there. That whole curriculum, I fought that for 30 years. That's why I'm not an MRA anymore. I already fought that battle.
Yeah. But now I think the point that we make with we get this celibacy thing because we do this, but it gets pushed in a wrong light. You could do celibacy 2 ways. You can actually do it in realistic life and everything and that, but there's another way that you do celibacy, and that's the metaphysical celibacy. And this is what I say, the etiquette comes in. When you're talking to people, when you walk into a room, if your aunt and your uncles and everybody's in there, you don't walk into a room and you say, hey everybody, I just tagged this bitch. They would look at you like you're crazy. Now when you look at the celibacy in that way, celibacy metaphysically is an idea that you don't talk about those things, and it's proper not to talk about those things, and you don't talk about those things with your best friend even. And that's the way you do it. When you come around here, you respect everybody's rights to their own personal sexuality, and if celibacy sees that, then you should have to respect the rights on that too, and don't talk about those things. And that's the way it should be with boys, because that's the way it was when I was a child, and even how I considered it through my adult life, and even through my my sexual life. I didn't talk with other people about that. I thought it was braggadocious, and I thought it was really not good etiquette to come into anywhere. And I seen guys that would blurt those things out in the wrong situations, like it was a bragging rights, and that's how you come off as a braggart. And that's where we have to teach. That's what's been taken out of schools. That's what's been taken out of our society is in feminism in itself. They want to open up the whole sexual scene and make that something you do talk about. But that's where the Mgtow, I think that's where the original Mgtow started. We didn't really care to what you were doing in your bedroom, and that's kind of the point. I don't want to know what you're doing in your bedroom. It doesn't matter to me what you're doing in your bedroom. Don't come around here. Don't talk about it, because it detracts from the Mgtow message. And have a certain etiquette about yourself. If you come around here with talking about that like a frat boy hanging around his friends at a beer party, of course I'm going to treat you like a frat boy hanging around at a beer party, with a lot of disrespect.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And I think what's been difficult for me is to accept the limitations. That is, we're really talking to older guys,
Yeah.
and I don't mean my age, but guys who've been through divorce and so forth. You know, we're probably not going to reach.
Yeah, that's the kind of
pre-married guys that have not been married. You know, 20s guys in their 20s. It's hard to get that message through to them, and it's probably
yeah. So all I say for them is have a little metaphysical celibacy, have a little metaphysical respect and etiquette to everybody.
That's right. Like try one day.
Yeah.
Try one day where you say, I don't care what women think. I'm not trying to get a woman today. I'm just living my life today. Just try that, guys, young guys. Just try living your life one day like that and see what it's like. And it's really a wonderful freedom, a wonderful feeling of freedom.
Yeah, there's a stoicism involved with that makes you feel better about yourself around in any situation where you have a control, and that's where the control over your inner, it all starts inner, your mind, and then once you get control over that, you can get control over the next thing. But if you can't get control over talking about those things or blurting it out or being excited about it or showing them kind of conditions, those kind of weaknesses, and I will call it a weakness, if you can't stop showing those kind of weaknesses, you're stuck there. You can never move on to the next level of Mgtow if you're going to be stuck on that weakness. And just have some control. That's what I'm telling the guys. Don't talk about that stuff. We don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear what you did in your bedroom. And don't ask me about it. And that's the other thing. It's like don't ask, don't tell, don't ask. It's kind of opposite. You don't talk about it, and you don't ask me about my penis. You know, because I think that's pretty gay, and that was my argument with a lot of guys when
it is gay.
It's gay, and it's a youthful homosexuality that's lost on me when some guy asks me about, you know, it makes a penis joke or something, because I find it very off-putting. And that's kind of etiquette we need to teach boys, but that's what's wrong with our schools right now. I'm gonna duck out for a second and bring my dog in.
Okay.
You guys got it?
Okay.
Yeah, the two coolest cats in Mgtow got it. Yeah, we definitely do. They're the only other cat in Mgtow that uses the word cat the way that I do. So definitely props for that. I actually have a funny story why I came about using it. So when I was younger, I used to hang around with a lot of black cats. And so the N-word, nigga, it was always around. So I wasn't asked to. I wasn't forced to. I said it a couple times, nobody cared. However, I chose, you know what, I need to replace this word, because at some point, you know, it's going to get me in trouble. So every time I say cat, it's always, or it started out as being in replace of the word, the endearing version of the word nigga. So that's how I kind of came to use it as frequently as I do. So.
Well, you know, I read Alex Haley's. I used to follow Alex Haley. He wrote Roots. It was a big TV program when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember it.
And often when a big movie came up, I would often go read the novel that followed it, like To Kill a Mockingbird. I read that when the movie came out, and Godfather. I read the novel after that came out, and Roots. I read that, and Alex Haley would say later, this is one of his later books. He said, what's wrong with Negro? You know, it took us 400 years to get them to call us Negro. What's wrong with that? He was telling his sons if he didn't like black. He didn't like black. He'd say, what's wrong with Negro? You know. But also, I want to add that I hear the word get thrown around in Mgtow, and I get that black guys can do good, but black guys can use it. But the thing is, like if you look back in time of Ali Frazier, I loved Ali. Fights used to be so good. The heavyweight fights used to be so good with Ali and Frazier. Okay, and I like Joe Frazier. He was my favorite fighter at that time. I think Philadelphia should have a statue of him rather than Rocky at the top of the stairs. you know, but Ali came back, you know, and he was fighting a cat called Leon Spinks.
Okay, Spinks.
And Leon Spinks had his front teeth were missing. Ali used to call him the vampire. And Spinks beat him in the first fight. He really did. He really did beat him. It wasn't a knockout or anything, but Spinks was. There were two of them. There were Spinks brothers, and then before the second fight, there was this great Rolling Stone article back when Rolling Stone was a good magazine, and Hunter Thompson was writing for them, and Hunter Thompson interviewed Ali, and Spinks had said on television, "I'm going to beat that N-word," and Hunter Thompson said to Ali, you know, that was really disappointing to hear him talk to you like that, a man as great as Ali. And Ali said, yeah, but you know, that's because black men can use the word, but it still is very disappointing. And when you got, you know, like my first job was in the Job Corps, okay?
Oh, really?
Corps, yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I was a teacher in the Job Corps. I taught general education development. It was a GED, so they're like half a day with me and then half a day in a trade. So there were lots of black kids, and they were from big urban centers in the Midwest and stuff. So you get this, you get these black guys using the N-word fluently, and then you got the white guy who befriends them and wants to fit in, and he's using it. It was just kind of really weird. So I never really cared for it. When Leon Spinks said about Muhammad Ali before the second fight, I want to beat that N-word. It was disappointing to me. I had to agree with Hunter Thompson, that wonderful writer who passed away about 5 years ago.
Yeah, so when I got it, another thing that kind of reinforced it is that they used to refer to something, the DJs, and I was a DJ. So the DJs used to be kind of like the archivers. We would always be looking for samples. So we would dig in the crates, as they call it. And so we would vinyl shop or whatever. And what this was, it was almost like it was a music appreciation of its own accord, because we would go into these, you know, basically dead genres of music and, you know, resurrect them by sampling, at least in my day. You know, it might be different now. But in any case, you know, so I was introduced to jazz and blues and bluegrass, all of these, you know, genres and subgenres via hip hop. And then I got introduced to beatnik culture and all the writers, and I would just consume all these books and poems by everybody. And I consider myself a neo-beatnik, which is essentially a hepcat. And a hepcat was the term specifically reserved for white consumers of black culture, especially jazz and whatnot, back in the day. And then all of a sudden, hepcat transformed into hipster, and as we all know, nobody wants to be called a hipster.
I didn't know that. I'm sorry to hear that, actually.
I was highly into the beatnik scene. It was the scene that preceded the hippie scene, you know, and I think that represents.
Right back. I'm sorry, I'll be right back.
Yeah, and you know, David Cassidy is one of my iconic figures. If I drop a figure, you know, there was the Cassidy and Ginsberg thing that happened back then, and I always followed the stories on that, and looked at what happened to him, and looked at you know, what he was and everything, and he was probably the first Kecker out there, you know.
Yeah,
he was.
You know, it's interesting. To this day, I think On the Road is probably the definitive book of Americana. I think it is maybe.
I think so too. Yeah, at that time, and that's the real America.
That changed my life reading it, you know, but I read it when it was too late to do the same thing, especially before I became a father, and I always procrastinated it, but I wanted to go on the road. And with every year that passed by, it became more and more policed. It became more and more criminalized to even do such. You can't hitchhike. You can't jump on trains like a hobo. You can't do any of these things at this point. And now it's too late. I mean, trying to do it, but the risks are really
very risky.
I mean, you could literally get shot on a train yard, because now they have the legal recourse to do that just by your presence or you're breaking in. And hitchhikers, nobody, you know, very few people pick up hitchhikers, and kind of for good reason. Well, I don't know if it's for good reason. I think for maybe every you know, realistically, who's really going to be a serial killer? Probably 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of maybe, you know, 100,000 guys that people that hitchhike. Though will probably provide you more actual problems. Honestly, you know,
an occasional hitchhiker, you know, it's like occasionally, you know, but hitchhiking was big when I was younger, and you know, the train tracks and everything, and you know, when you're a hippie kid, that's how you get around sometimes. It just stopped at some point there. America became too unsafe, and I think the media had picked up too, you know.
Well, I think hitchhiking became unsafe with Manson.
Right.
I think when Manson happened, it was no longer safe to hitchhike, and I did it too. And also homelessness, I think, as far as the urban areas, you have to find the homeless camp. You don't just find your place anymore, you know. And I was homeless for quite a while, but I guess you could do it with your smaller towns, like when I was in college at the University of Utah in Logan, Utah. I had some camping skills, and Joe, we talked about camping and scouts and stuff, you know. When spring came, I was able to spend a quarter up there, and we were in quarters at that university. There were 4 quarters in a year. I did spring quarter, summer quarter in the foothills in a tent, you know, but that was way out of the way. You know, there's no rangers, there's no police. The homeless guys now, you know, they're basically looking for the encampments, you know, where there are many others. Yeah. And I think they're actually attracted to the counties or the cities that have homeless camps.
Yeah. Now
it's all men. It's like 99% men.
Yeah, that video I put up of the train trestles the other day.
Yeah.
Now when I walked down to the fenced area there, you seen the 2 girls like sleeping by the.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you take away that fence, back in the 80s and 90s, that was a homeless camp area, and that's why I had went down there, because I was thinking, oh, is what they used to call the hole still down there? And it's a big, huge drain off from the city, and it's warm inside there. And they used to put mattresses out because it was sort of like a, you know how the LA river is. There's just this little stream going down the middle, but there's a lot of room. This was a tunnel that has this little stream going down the middle and a lot of room, and a pump. It would pump the heat out from the city. And that's where the homeless guys, they used to put hundreds and hundreds of mattresses in there. And all the homeless guys there was a city underneath there of homeless guys. But yeah, I mean, there's not any pictures of it, and you can't like really kind of see.
No, I never had it that bad. I feel very badly for them, and I think they're still there. I think there are a lot of them. For me, as I was talking about before, sometimes a young man might move into his car just because he's broke. You know, he might just put it out for 6 months or something, because, you know, kind of men are kind of tough. You know, they can kind of live without for a few months.
Yeah, a man has a car.
That are older, like I live in a town now that's like 90,000. I live downtown, and pretty soon you're probably going to hear a train go by. About every 30 minutes, a train goes by. Yeah. But I love it. I mean, I'm upstairs from a couple bars and some other places. It's really cool. In fact, there's happy hour, Joe. It's $3 for a drink from the well, you know. But it's, but there are a lot of homeless people digging around the garbage at night. There's just all kinds of them. They're all men. Okay, it's all men.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's sad when you look at the homeless. They lock down all those places, and they try to get them into, you know, these complexes that they have. But when I talk to the guys that come from the inner city complexes to the outer city, the complexes we put out, which is just a house of 14 guys, and we'll have a house here, a house here, a house here, a house here, and we all donate and try to get these things going. When we talk to the guys in there, they say it's rather like prison, and there's there's rape and there's theft, and there's violence.
Yeah. You know, they'd rather find a secret place to sleep. I mean, these guys, I'm not kidding. They wake me up at 4 or 5 in the morning because they're digging through the garbage, and they're pulling up all the bottles, the beer bottles that the bars have thrown away.
Yeah, the bottles, they can get money for
5 cents a bottle.
Yeah, you can get money for the bottles and the cans and whatever you can find.
Guys, 5 cents for a bottle or a can, and they're waking me up in the morning, and that's their night. They're like night crawlers now. You know?
Yeah, they call them scrappers, and scrappers are always looking for scrap, and you know, that's a big thing. They'll you know, go into vacant buildings and electrocute themselves, not knowing that the electric's still on these 800 volt cables that are still coming in. They'll try to take the copper off an 800, and the utility companies rarely know that these things are still live, you know, in companies. But there was just a story someone put up a mall around the area that he tried calling in. One of the scrappers tried crawling in one of the transformer boxes and do scrapping in there. And I know the dangers of a transformer box. The transformer box transforms down from 8,000 volts to the 480 or whatever they're using, the 237. And in those boxes, there's a magnetic pole that pulls your body. And you don't have to have any metal on you. It'll actually pull your body into the copper, and it'll fry you.
But see, you're an electrical engineer. You understand that shit. With me, you know, I might be just trying to get warm, and I go down in there, and I turn into one of those flashing cartoon skeletons. You know?
Yeah, that's it. That's what you turn into. They're quite dangerous, and they don't know those things. You're not supposed to know these things. It's locked, and don't go in there. There's big signs that say danger, Peligro on it.
Well, listen, there's a strange trade-off. I mean, there was this. I was outside, Joe. I can tell you this. I live downtown now. I live on Main Street, right above a dirty bookstore.
Okay.
But there's a couple of bars around, happy hour, and this old cat comes by with what looks like, I don't know, kind of an ice cream cart or something, you know, and he's digging through the garbage. I gave him $1. I said, "Thank you for cleaning up my neighborhood," because these guys are cleaning up all the bottles and plastic in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If it's on the ground, they pick it up, right? I gave him $1 and said, "Hey," and you know, he just strolled up the street, said thank you, strolled up the street, but there are other guys, you know, the police will show you a video of some guy who's pretending, you know what I mean? He's got $200 with ones and fives, and he's what do you call it? He's a poser or something, you know what I mean? It's a weird, you have to, if you're going to do the Mgtow thing with these guys, you got to translate it into what's real and what's not real, you know?
Yeah, that's we get a lot of that, and my buddy's always fearful of that because I'm the kind of guy I always have a 5 for him or something, and you know, when I see a real, because there's a difference between a real homeless guy and a guy, you know, just he's got brand new jeans, he got brand new tennis shoes, he's got a leather jacket, he's just a little scruffy, you know. You know, you got to wonder about those guys. But everybody starts at a certain point. I can't say that, you know, he's not, or he's just not to that point where I would consider him homeless. And, you know, and it's a sad situation, but I identify him very well. I tell my buddy that when we're driving, I just pull up next to him so I can get a good look at him. And my buddy will go, "Is he homeless or isn't he homeless?" Because he trusts my opinion now.
Yeah, I got one cat in my neighborhood now that crosses the street with his shopping cart with lots of stuff in it, and he doesn't look both ways. And this is the main part of town. In fact, the train goes by every 30 minutes there as well. He doesn't care. He's not watching. Okay, this is a mentally ill cat that's just making it on aluminum cans and bottles. It's really something else where I'm living right now.
Yeah, that's sad to see. Hopefully we can get some more houses. We can get you know, that's kind of the point of Mgtow, is we try to, you know, where the where the system falls off is that's what I always envisioned Mgtow. Mgtow can pick up on that system, and with the mayor of Mgtow and his homeless outreach pod, he just kind of it kind of put the kibosh on trust in here now.
Yeah, I think look, I trust him, but I think he bit off more than he could chew. I think he
didn't have really no experience in that stuff,
yeah.
And when he found out the immense, it's an immense job, and I mean that $20,000, whatever it was, could have probably really helped out somebody that knew what they were doing in the situation, and could have you always think about your money that you get and how that money is going to make more money, so that money can make more money so you can do the house, and you're looking for grants, you're looking for but it's like having credit, getting a grant. It's like, what do you got? What can you show me that you got to make this thing? And you can say, well, this is our cash fund right now. This is our house. This is the house we're looking at. We're doing this very business-like. What are you going to be? What are you going to be doing in that house? Well, we're going to be treating mental health. We're going to be treating alcoholism, and drug addictions. And you got to kind of know those things, because you're not going to get a grant based on homelessness, men's homelessness. They will tell you to go get bent.
Yeah. I mean, that's my question, Joe. I mean, the answer is us guys like us getting it together in small groups locally, or the government. And I don't know. It puzzles me.
Yeah. Now I was heavy into that crowd when I first got up here, and I still work actively in the homeless, and I still go to all the events and try to involve myself in the community. But it gets frustrating for the men's homelessness and everything, and it is frustrating.
There are a lot of them. I was downtown just 2 days ago, and I was sitting at an outdoor having a cocktail, and I saw this chick coming down the street. She was like 30 something, and she stopped where I was at. There was like a little gate around where I was, this patio where I was having a rum and coke, and she asked me if I had a cigarette. Huh. Well, you know what? This is a working girl, right? So I told her I don't smoke and I'll see you later. But I'm not really sympathetic for that, honestly. There's so many women's shelters and stuff and women's services stuff. I'm not sympathetic. But when the other guy, it was the same day, that's when the guy came down and digged through the garbage right in front of me. I mean, you got guys in broad daylight digging through the garbage. This is the guy that I gave a box to and said, hey, thank you for cleaning up my neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, you do a good job. And
if you're in a city or urban or downtown somewhere, you're going to see it. You're going to see a lot of it. These people are waking me up at night, digging through the garbages, digging through the dumpsters.
Yeah, me and a few of my friends used to have big arguments about that, and I would always say, if I seen a cat that was walking down the street picking up cans, and I had a job to fill, that's the cat that I want walking in. I want to see his face, because I know he's motivated to do that. It tells me right off, if he'll pick up cans outside, a job is not a problem for him. They would say, no, don't you want somebody that, a lot of times when I did do hiring in my life, I get stuck with guys that really, they weren't motivated. They didn't want to do the job. They were there for a short period of time. They weren't qualified. At least I knew that guy, if he would pick up cans on the street, at least I knew that he was dependable.
Hey, John Kramer, he can't stand the guys asking him for a smoke, and he's saying, do I look like I smoke?
Do I look like I smoke?
John Kramer, he constantly chisels away at what he looks like. He's just such a handsome, gorgeous guy. I can't believe it. It's just, the more I think about him and listen to him, I just see this guy. It's something else, man.
Yeah, that's Dr. John Kramer.
I hate all of them asking me for cigs. Do I look like I smoke? And what does this guy look like? I mean, it's that's why I did a video tonight. That's why I'm talking to you, because I think he's a goth. And I think he's kind of a slight goth. You know?
Scott.
I don't know. He can correct me. He can school me. He's smarter than I am, I'm sure. But thank you, John Kramer. You crack me up. You really do.
I knew MA was a hipster.
Listening tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have to give you the briefing on the buttons up here and invite things again.
Oh yeah, you know what? I timed him out. I banned him like, I don't know, 3 or 4 nights ago. I did this video called Delayed Action.
Okay.
I was talking about the disposable nails, and John, you know, I was asking again for a monk monitor, and I thought I was making him a monitor, and I banned him.
You had to go back on your ban list and take him off. Yeah, I do that once in a while.
I banned John Kramer. Oh my gosh.
I hit the wrong button. Who did we accidentally ban the other day? I can't remember. Somebody got accidentally banned. But yeah, you can see we have our detractors. Look at that downvote button. It was 10 before the video started.
Yeah.
Oh, Mgtow, it's crazy around here sometimes. Yeah. So what's new in Mgtow?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, what's new around?
I cannot answer that on the grounds. Yeah. So yeah, I got my hands on a lot of pies right now, and things are going really well. And I think it's really going to help, especially the monks get the better message out there. And that's all we need to do. We just got to get it out there, and that's it. So here's the thing. I do believe in the adage that it should be attraction, not promotion.
Right.
However, I think that may have changed, because that made more sense when we didn't have a mainstream Mgtow to contend with. And now we actually do. We have a mainstream Mgtow to contend with. And so maybe somebody behind the scenes kind of pulling some levers to promote us a little bit would be advantageous for us all. And I'm not afraid to admit that. And it has nothing to do with money or views or following, none of that shit. Just about getting that core message out there and exposed to, you know, the kind of guys that, you know, might be able to take it by the horns and do something with it.
Yeah, we want the kind of guys that we want around here that see our opinions as you know, valid. And we don't want the mainstream Mgtows around there. There's so many mainstream Mgtow channels you can go and visit and everything. No, our message is a little different, and it's a little more you know, it's a little more stringent, but still, the guys, they should have that kind of choice if that's what makes them comfortable in life. And that's what when you said the other day, and I kind of brought it up, that we should have some kind of focus group and everything. I think MT3 can help us with that too. We have a focus group. We look at certain areas of the internet and certain areas of the world or our life that we know that there's going to be guys, these monk type guys there.
Well, yeah, that's my question, is that I can't really push it forward. What I could do is reflect, like I did Delayed Action, you know, about how men are disposable in war, and I was trying to say that we have this notion about men in our society that they're disposable, you know.
Yeah.
And then I did goth. I did goth tonight, and I'm just trying to say I'm not really. I'm no messenger, you know what I mean? I can't really push it forward as to where we're going in the future, but I can kind of show where we're at today and where we were in the past. And that's, if there's something else I can do, I'd love to be in a talk show with you guys again.
All you got to do is keep doing what you're doing. I don't know if you're aware of this, MT, but I've already used you. I used to, and I still do it from time to time. I do this Red Pill Radio. What I simply do is I'll mix sounds, music, instrumentals, and usually Mgtow content. And you've already been featured in one.
Thank you.
That's going to be that's what I'm doing now, is pretty much the prototype for what a lot of us have been talking about doing in a big way. And so yeah, just stay tuned for things to come. I try to hit you up to get explicit permission. Sometimes I drop the ball on explicit permission.
I don't care about that. Go ahead and take it, man.
Yeah. I figure most monks don't really care because most monks are not out to get money, or they don't care about copyright stuff because they just want the actual core message out there. That's why I take praise. That's going to be a thing, and I think it'll be an interesting thing because we need to, you know, I think so. The quote unquote monks, we understand this, but a lot of the mainstream doesn't. Everything came from our actions. If you could identify what side of the aisle the early Mgtows were, they were on the monk side. And all the innovation that we've seen to date have come from the monks. This does not mean that somebody didn't take one of our ideas or several of our ideas and could, you know, made them big, because they have, and they usually pervert it along the way, and then that's how you get the mainstream. You always have to, or universal, you kind of have to simp to people, and so you're going to get a lot of simp followers, and that's what we're seeing now with mainstream Mgtow. And you know, rather than bitch and kvetch about it constantly, all we need to do is be present. And you got a couple of cats like MA in your corner. That's all. That'll be enough. Trust me. So.
Well, that's cool, because I did the story recently about teaching. That was my story tonight. But I also have like the guy who shows his car, his auto mechanics and stuff. I do that kind of stuff. I can't do a PowerPoint right now because I don't have anything cool to show. But I am into that thing where if you're a Mgtow and you're working on something, go ahead and show your hobby. And this is my beef with Sandman, for example. I think Sandman's brilliant. I like him very much. But as I understand him, he's a photographer. So why is he buying pictures and showing other people's pictures? And I have the same deal with Dare, to tell you the truth. But you know what? You're a photographer. You know, it doesn't have to be thematic. You can show. It's audio. You know, you can show your stuff, your hobby, while you're talking. So I'm in a new apartment. I just let a bunch of paintings dry. I'm doing drawings now. I'm gonna have paintings later, but it's all good. But I'm still gonna, when I show that stuff, I'm still gonna be talking Mgtow.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I agree. I think Sandman's laid it out on the table before. I think that he probably suspects that his photography, if you don't, he might be a hobbyist on the side, but I know professionally he stated that he's a wedding photographer.
He's a wedding photographer.
And I would imagine if that identity, if somehow somebody could match up a picture that he may have taken to his photography style, I don't know. But if that could get back to him.
Doxing thing. I hadn't thought of that. It could be a doxing thing, huh?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, there's kind of a there's something in there. One thing kind of leans towards that's his business, and his business is killing his business too. That there's something in there that's a cognitive dissonance to me when he says.
Well, you know, I think these Mgtow can show their achievements and their art. It doesn't have to be directly thematically connected to what they're saying. Okay, honestly, if you look at Spence Naz, yeah, he was interesting, but his videos had nothing to do with what he was talking about, or very little, and he didn't create them, right?
Right.
So you can separate what the guy is saying from his videos. So that's kind of what I'm saying, and also I'm angry with Spence Naz for bringing down Messenger.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on a rant on that. I admit it.
Yeah, he fell off the Mgtow bandwagon, and that was it. But we can appreciate his earlier work, and he can.
Yes, that's right. Exactly right.
And someday maybe he'll come back and do some more work. And just remember, remember the crowd you're talking to. You know, don't go into a Democrat a convention and talk about Republican.
Yeah, let's keep the politics out of it. Absolutely.
It was just kind of a thing. Don't go into a Catholic church and tell them to be more Jewish. Don't do. You don't do those things in life. When he started going down the PUA track and the long-term relationship thing, that's not what we do around here. And
no, I mean, it surprised me because I was a Catholic school teacher, but I wasn't preaching. You know what I mean? I was describing what happened to me when these feminists moved in and I resigned in protest. And these these atheist guys were going, no, don't talk about it. No, don't talk about it. That's not it. I wasn't talking about the Catholics. I was talking about the environment that I was in. So that's the difference, right? I'm not a political or religious guy as far as Mgtow goes.
Yeah. Well, we could look at religious things, and we could look at some things. If they make sense, then they make sense. But like saying Saint Thomas of Aquinas. He was the father of modern philosophy, so you can't take that away from him. We see that with Mgtow too. Mgtow, the way it used to be, where the aestheticism and our views were the father of Mgtow, but it'll progress away from that stuff because of the aestheticism.
Oh no, it took me a year to kind of whittle my way down to the monks. I mean, when I first came to Mgtow 4 years ago, I thought y'all were atheists. You had the Karen chick, that dark chick.
Yeah.
And eventually, if you listen to anybody, Razor Blade Candy, if you listen to any of them long enough, they came down, or Stephen Mono, they came down to atheist philosophy, and that's kind of why I built.
Well, yeah, that was the atheist plus scene that we had to go through there for a while, and that was the shedding of the. I think that was the point where we had hit maximum. We were a thing then. So what naturally happens is like the St. Thomas of Aquinas thing, that when you're moving into the philosophy, everybody started shedding the religious aspect of that, the moral aspect of that, and then you got skepticism, then you got things like that shoot out of what we were doing. But from the inception, Mgtow was about a more aesthetic lifestyle, about a single lifestyle. It was about not marrying. It was about throwing that. Now, when people look at that marriage thing, they think that's anti-religiousism. It's more anti-civil religion. We don't want, that's what we were trying to say. And when civil religion broke into that stuff, that's when the problems happened. And yes, but from the inception, Mgtows were always monks. The monks started this thing. There was the people, we didn't want nothing to do with the female at that point. We were shedding all that stuff from our life. And but with all philosophy, that's kind of the way it takes, isn't it?
Exactly. It takes a while to scrub away and work through all the brush and all the useless stuff, and hear them.
Yeah, but you listen to Marcus the Metaphysical. If you ask him about St. Thomas Aquinas, you can say, yeah, he's a great philosopher. You can take you can take it for what you want, what you want out of it, and forget all the other stuff. That he was a monk, but people people want to tailor their philosophy and to fit their ideas of what they can possibly do with that in their life. Same thing with monk. They're going to tailor it to fit their personal philosophy.
Well, Joseph, it's hard to say to oneself that this is it, that I'm living alone.
Yeah.
And that's even me at my advanced age. It's still hard for me to say this is it. I'm not going to have a roommate, I'm not going to have some woman around here. It's what can I say? It's something you say to yourself, and yet it's great. I think it's great. I love it, but it's hard to accept that this is it. This is where you're at forever. For this.
Yeah, I understand how hard that is for some of the new cats and everything, and hey, that's why I say we keep the ideas so they can continue doing their sexuality and everything, but that's not the focus of Mgtow.
Well, no, I mean, look, if you look at me now, I go down to happy hour every day during the week.
Yeah,
I'm like the older cat with the goatee that you love when it walks in, or I'm like that uncle at your family party who you haven't seen in 2 years, and he gives you $20. He says, hey, I haven't seen you. I guess I missed a couple of birthdays, you know, and he gives you $20. I'm that guy now. It's actually really great being that guy.
Yeah, that guy, you know, yeah, it is. And, you know, we'll accept that and everything. But, you know, like I said, there's a metaphysical thing, a philosophy that these guys can adhere to a little more stringently, but they can have their personal lives at the same time. Just don't talk about their personal lives.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm more of a solitude guy. I have no personal life. But I get what you're saying. We're not going to talk about that here. But
yeah, the sexual part of their personal lives. I want to hear about their, you know, whether they like to play pool or whether they like to play basketball or what's their favorite hobbies and stuff. And that part of their personal life is not offensive.
Yeah.
But that rest of that stuff is, you know, it gets rather offensive. And that's what the guys, you know, in this modern society that we have with this overt sexuality, that's what it gets lost on in there. And sexual politics becomes everything. Gender politics and sexual politics and all that stuff. And then that becomes the storyline instead of the real deep stuff that we figured out on, you know, how to be happier in your life and you know, the metaphysical side of it, you know.
That's right. For example, the guy working on his car right now, okay? Like, I moved recently, I told you about it, and I had to stop painting over a month ago because oil paints take a long time to dry, okay?
Yeah.
But I started some drawings, and right now I'm doing nothing but drawings, and I'm kind of in this groove now where I'll be drawing for a month. And
cool.
I'll get 20 or 30 drawings. I just kind of know how I am. I want the drawings done so I don't have to stop and do more. So I'll get, it's kind of like, you know, those coloring books where the outline is done, the black line. I'm doing those for myself. And it's a hobby thing, guys. It's a hobby thing because that's what I'm doing now. And it takes up my time in a very wonderful way.
Yeah, no, I used to have them for my mother. My mother used to enjoy doing those. I used to buy them for the, you know, and I get her those paint because it gives her a better idea. When you start doing those, it gives you a better idea how to do. Someday you might just kind of flip an open page and remember how it looked, and that's visualization. And art is everything, you know that. You visualize it, you put it down on paper, and it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But you have to have something to visualize first. you can't be empty, and them things are really good. Yeah. I got my little drawing pad out there and some charcoals. I have a whole jar full of charcoals right next to. I always knock it off when I'm doing this.
Well, I'm gonna go off with John Kramer and say goodnight.
Are you? Okay.
And thank you so much for inviting me and letting me in on your Travcast. Gosh, I just love it. It's very, very flattering for me. And this is my barbershop. And I did golf tonight. So
okay.
Thanks a lot for everything, man. And Mr. Chvapek, thank you for taking me seriously and being so nice to me.
Yeah, no problem, man. You have a good one.
Thanks a lot, MT3.
I'll see you guys later.
Okay. Yeah, it's always great to have MT3 on. He brings up a different side of Mgtow, and that, you know, his Mgtow, and that's always great.
Yep. Teacher, artist, hell yeah, cool cat.
Yeah. See, you can be, you know, in that kind of person, in that kind of mold, and still be a Mgtow. And it comes that any mold that you are. You know, from a working class guy to the teacher to professor to a police officer to a court officer or anything, you can still incorporate Mgtow into your life, and as long as you don't get wrapped up in all the bull around here, you can pick up some pretty good ideas on how to live a very decent life.
Yeah.
It's appealing to everybody. Not just they want to make it where it's just appealing to the young guys or the you know, the deviant guys and stuff like that. They want to put a cereal box us into that deviant thing, you know. And that's where I was watching a movie, and it was the new movie out on it was developing profiles. I can't remember what the movie was. It was not a movie, it was a series that just played and developed. These guys from the 60s in the FBI were developing profiles, and they were talking about the deviant behaviors of every single serial killer.
Yeah. Yeah, I was discussing this in real life with a person, and the interesting thing about and I'll go back in. I have to make this qualifier, and I always have to mention it because it drives me nuts. So sociopathy, narcissism, psychopaths, sociopaths, they get brought up a lot these days, in and around the manosphere, Mgtow cast, and all this stuff. But I know for a fact most people have no handle on it. They're still that all sociopaths are serial killers when this is further from the truth. You want to find a sociopath, walk 2 feet out your fucking door. That's how you find one. They're probably going to be, a barber or, a fucking, they can be anyone. And that's the point. Not all of them are that smart. Not all of them are sadists, and some of them have their own kind of code of ethics or morality.
Right.
Because they, have a different kind of empathy thing. Doesn't mean that they don't have some sort of code in and of themselves. But anyway, going on. What's really interesting about the most prolific serial killers that are also sociopaths or psychopaths is that they either had mutual abuse early on, trauma from men and women,
right?
But there's very few of them that did not feature trauma from women. And not only that, but if we go back and we look at less than murderous sociopaths, prolific ones, and in this case, I would suggest Iceberg Slim. I would suggest a handful of really talented comedians, namely Richard Pryor. Came up around prostitutes. They come up around brothels. Some of them were actually pimped out when they were kids themselves. Women, we're talking about incest. We're talking about all kind of abuses. And I find that really, really interesting. And this is left out of the conversation. It shouldn't be. We are essentially I think in Mgtow, the monks, comes to this information because nobody else wants to talk about it. Nobody, and if they do, it's lip service. Like the MRM will mention how women can hurt kids, but they don't really focus on it. They gloss it over because they don't want to offend their female counterparts, But we don't care. We don't care about an offense. It needs to be brought to light.
Yeah, that's that was the original in Mgtow is what everybody visualizes as rage is not really rage. It's we realized that that we had to desensitize the masses to Mgtow, and how were we going to do that? We were going to shock them. It was we have a desensitization theory going here, where we say things stronger, because if you're going to say thing and you got that audience, you might as well make it strong and unforgettable, because the next time he hears it, it's not going to sound it's not going to sound as terrible. So that was the theory from the beginning. Rage was used, and I always say outrage instead of rage. But we're saying we have a certain outrage towards things that happen to men, and the only way we can project our message, because the male voice isn't heard, the female voice is heard. So when we say something, we have to say it loud, we have to say it strong. And even in the Bible, when Jesus was talking to James, and James was talking to these Philistines, and he was trying to get his point across, Jesus came up and he said, hey, James, you can't talk to these guys like that. Use strong language, because otherwise they're not going to hear you.
Yeah,
that's what we do. We use strong language so they hear us to begin with, and it desensitizes them it desensitizes them next time they hear something that's maybe lightly moderated, like we're doing today and everything. We're just kind of glazing over a lot of things, and we're not using that strong original language. But that got labeled onto us too. That, oh, you guys are raging. No, these guys, we're not raging. We're not raging out because we're upset about we're not raging out because there's some rage is totally different. That's what they tagged us with. What we're responding to outrage, and what we're calling is just Mgtow assertiveness, and that's okay to be assertive male. You know, be a strong male, be a loud male, be like you know, if it comes off as rageful to them, that's just the way they're interpreting it.
You know, something that, you know, it's somewhat related, but piqued my interest recently is that you know, there's this little, you know, it's a marginal, but it is a significant sub community in YouTube. And what it is, it's kind of like the equivalent of these life coaches, but they're women. Focus is, you know, trying to give people the tools to make you know, stupid diagnosis on around them for narcissism, right? For personality disorder. What I find interesting is that if you look at the videos and then at their comment section, it's all women, and it's all women, you know, claiming that usually their fathers were narcissists. And I find, like, isn't that interesting? And and it's a big ass milk apple, because if you actually pay attention
they're talking
to 5 minutes of any one of these videos, they are narcissists themselves. Yeah,
that's what I noticed about that crowd. Shining got inundated with that crowd for a while, and then that's what I realized, that anytime a person's talking, what they're doing is they're looking in their mind for ideas that's in their mind, and they're projecting it out into the world. When you're talking, you're not talking about, even if you're talking about someone else, you're talking about your idea of the situations. Now, when you start talking about narcissism and stuff like that, and the way they're forming it, you soon realize that they're talking about themselves. Or at least they're giving an example of their own basic narcissistic manners. Because that's the only thing you can really talk about, is something, you know, something that's in your brain, you know. It's not nobody else. They can talk about other people all day long, and that's the sort of the Hollywood image right now. Every time you see the bad dad and everything, and that, they're not talking about us regular guys. They're talking about themselves, because that's what they see. They see themselves as bad dads. They see themselves as horrible fathers. They see themselves. And in that kind of situation in Hollywood and everything, I suppose, a lot of those people are bad, just bad people.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that you have to realize about people in this world. I always like to give your perception of beauty. What is your perception of beauty? What is beauty when you look at it? And it was explained to me in a philosophy book a long time ago. Beauty is your mind looking at your mind and deciding what it likes.
So, oh wow, so there's a synonym. Like, if you want to go by that way, then that means metacognition is beauty. Because when you think about thinking, or when you meditate about meditating, or you know, you breathe, or you're aware of your breathing, which is part of meditation. You know, all these kinds of things. That's metacognition. You know, so that's interesting.
Metacognition. Yeah, you're looking at your mind, and your mind is looking at your mind and deciding what it likes, and that's what it perceives as beauty. Now, in that same complex scenario in narcissism, when they're talking about narcissism, it's the mind looking at the mind, and then reflecting out into the world, and articulating these verbal things that we say on what the mind knows, and what the mind is what's formed in the mind.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to start looking. Anytime every time now, when people are talking to me, I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm listening to how they say it, because they're telling me things about themselves. They're telling on themselves. And I'm listening deeper for those little things that they're telling me about themselves. And they can be going off about a lot of things, but what they're really doing is they're telling me all about themselves and how they think about things.
Not even, you know, Mgtow or monks, whether they be secular or religious, are quite immune to this. It's not. I think the only people that, you know, incidentally, and going back to that one word, that are somewhat immune would be really intelligent and advanced sociopaths. Those are the only people that can kind of trick to what's going on. But a dime a dozen narcissists, which is kind of most women, they don't know. They're not even. They lack such self-awareness of what they're doing. They really think that their sleight of hand is getting past most people.
Yeah, they're homing their
because
skills. They're homing their narcissism. That's why they're talking about it, because they're trying to home it.
and narcissists feed off of each other really well. And you know, it's really interesting, especially when it comes to women. If you kind of like from the sidelines watch a group of women and how they engage, and you know, they borrow, they take. There's this really, it's almost like narcissism is a commodity in communication with them among themselves, and it's really fascinating to watch from the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting when you get down deep into the roots of the human mind and everything. And that's why, like, I've been kind of centering in on a few different things now, you know, pragmaticism being one. There's another thing that I've been interested in lately, and the deviant behavior that's caught my eye and we get a lot of the deviant behavior around here. But when you start really dissecting what if you were like an FBI agent and you were looking into Mgtow at the deviant behavior, this would be it would be a fucking, you would think from what you see by the deviant squad over there and everything, that this is, you would think that this is an area where, oh God, these guys are running out and they're going to be killing women and doing all sorts of bad things and everything. And if you look at the profile of that and everything, and how the deviant behavior becomes excavated, becomes it goes into the next deviant behavior. And I think that's what we see with the guys like that Russian guy that killed his girlfriend. With the skepticism, it becomes skepticism, and then it becomes nihilism, and then it becomes all about, and then there's some twisted thing that happens in there. But the serial killers are very interesting, because most of them started out with some sort of deviant behavior, whether it be a fixation to panties, a fixation to girls' shoes, you know, a fixation to deviant art.
There's a lot of ritualization. A lot of ritualization.
There was always something there. Besides most of them come from families where their mothers berated them and shamed them, and then it took that direction. It gave that deviant behavior that was already there some direction to go into.
Yeah.
And then that became the whatever fixation, whether it be looking at the deviant art or the shoes or the fetishes or what I consider paraphernalia, with what, you know, TFM's crowd, the paraphernalia, using the dolls or that's all deviant behavior, and that's all a mental condition that can, it works up to if they take that, at that point, if they take the next step, that's when it becomes taboo. And you work into these taboo things, and then it becomes, they work themselves up in steps, and they work themselves up in steps. And then
it goes back to the argument that, you know, and there was an argument, you know, like a lot of the namely the pedophiles would say, hey, I'm not active, I don't go for kids, I just, you know, I'm a consumer of these pictures or whatever.
Right.
And the first thing that, like, the first normal people response to that is, okay, those pictures were created by harmed kids.
Yeah.
And so as long as you are part of the market and the supply of demand, yes, you are fucking doing something about it, you know? Yeah. And a lot of people, that just falls on deaf ears. So and then the next could be, well, what if you digitize it? Or what if you make cartoons of it? Is it still acceptable? And I don't think so, because I think one, just like you were saying, of addiction. And when you kind of, you know, when you become addicted to deviant things, you always got to get a better high the next time around, which means that you're going to get further and further more of a degenerate. You're just going to get you're going to get a point to evil to satiate whatever you're getting out of it. Right.
Yeah. It's, I forget what they call it. It's when they take it to the next level that it becomes the fixation, and then they take it to the next level. And that's what I'm worried about with all that stuff. And, but it's interesting.
So like, let's take it here, because I don't want to conflate the two, and I want to make sure that we do recognize the distinction. So yeah, you know, I'm not conflating that those that are going to go out and get sex dolls or robots or whatever, or the of deviant squad necessarily. But what I am saying is it will come to a point where it will be so normalized, right?
Right.
You go to your homeboy's house and he's got one of these, sex robots kind of in the corner, just, charging or something like that. What happens if you go to one of your homeboys? Are you going to call that out for what it is, or are you going to be normal? Or are you going to normalize that and be like, okay, that's okay because he's not hurting any real kids? That kind of a thing. So there is a distinction.
Right.
Sex robots are going to come whether the monks want them to or not. It's almost an irrelevant moot point to argue it. There is already a market for it. All we do and all our presidents, all our job is to suggest, hey, rather than blow a bunch of money and get into that weird world, why don't you just, self-discipline yourself with other things in life, which are far more, productive for your own life, not for anybody else, but there's more productive pursuits. There really are. So.
Yeah, now I've seen that. That's what I've seen with the Immortal thing too. It was the Goku comics, which is I believe kids that watch this stuff, they neurons that wire together, fire together, and then he moved into the risque anime part of that, and then the next thing I seen when you go down, and I showed in my video, the next thing you see is bondage.
Yeah.
So you can see a progression there. There is a progression to what's the next thing.
And there might we all might be surprised. Well, I don't know. See the robot part, the AI part of how they're going to program the bots. A lot of people are actively working on it from so many different angles. It's anyone's guess on how that's going to look, what it's going to look like when everything's said and done. It just goes back to whether it's quite possible that a regular, there's a TFL style kind of Mgtow, goes out, gets a sex doll, and with that he's content with this device, whatever, and he never goes beyond that. I mean, is this going to be a possibility? Sure, but what I find more interesting is you got to understand how programming works and the intent and motives of a lot of these programmers that are doing this very basic programming of general special AI, general special AI. So, and I've talked about this before. So when I was first Mgtow, I was also in a lot of science circles, and everybody was talking about, AI and robotics development. And I'm said, if we approach this by creating, sentient intelligence, and then we assign it an arbitrary gender, without actually being part of us, of a species, you're going to get into some really fucking weird ass science fiction ground to be human. It's not going to be woman. It is a device. It is a machine. And once it becomes aware it's only a machine and it's so separated from its creators, it's likely to go mad. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, the thing I you hear a lot of the articles about, and I think they missed the point. The MRA and the Mgtows that when they say does the robot have rights, and they word that all wrong, because they're stupid feminists and everything. What they should be saying is when a male he has this sex bot, and the sex bot has no agency to say no. That becomes a normal routine in his life where he goes home and with the increase of AI and these things become more and more like an actual female. What the sex bot has no inhibitions towards, the sex bot can't say, no, I have a headache that day. Now these guys go out into this real world, where females, they'll get so used to this idea that the female has no choice in the matter, and that it'll start almost a rape frenzy, because they don't know the difference anymore between their sex bot and a real human.
Yeah, that's possible. I've already seen, I guess there's some articles from feminist circles going around, and they're taking that to the next level, and they're already saying that rape is going to be rape for the robot, not for women, but for the robot itself.
Yeah. Now, so it just gives guys that believe that sexual entitlement is their thing already. It gives them the ultimate tool to think that sexual entitlement is they'll just take this whenever they want. And these guys, we talk about it all the time. These are guys with no control to begin with. They have very little control. PUAs and the beggars and everything, that's what they live for. That's what they want. That's the only thing that's on their mind. And that's what we're saying in here is get control of yourselves. And but I find that part of Mgtow goes back into that deviant where it is a mental illness, and it is called paraphernalia. When they start doing this, it leaves them suspect to committing crimes then, because they actually truly will not know the difference. And then that's what we'll have to deal with down this line here. And then they're going to, oh, these guys are Mgtows. No, they're not Mgtows. From the inception, we're saying these guys that have those weird sexual, strange inability to control any bit of emotion or any bit of sexual impulses, they're not Mgtows. We don't invite them in here. We don't want them around here. We want them. We want to go over to the MRA. Go over and argue that go shoot arrows at windmill dragons. That's what we're saying. Go do that. But we don't call yourself a Mgtow, because Mgtow means more. You know, it's just the normality of it, and the etiquette that I talk about, and you know, that's a normal male. He has a certain normal, he controls his impulses in a certain normal way. Like I said, he doesn't walk into a room full of his aunts and uncles and tap on the, you know, get up on the pulpit and go, hey, you guys want to hear about my last sexual conquest? There was this girl named Sheila, and I really just kind of whacked her good. You know, your aunts and uncles don't want to hear that. That would be a real lack of self-control. I don't want to hear it either. And I don't want to see it in here with the dolls and the paraphernalia and the sexual entitlement and all that stuff. I spot that stuff in a heartbeat.
And see, I'm sure you probably get your fair criticism because, you know, you're going to be charged with, oh shit, sexual entitlement. Feminists agree with you.
Oh yeah, feminists.
And then you're left to explain why sexual entitlement for no one doesn't do anybody favors. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe on this issue you do agree with certain feminists.
I do agree with feminists on sexual entitlement. I would sit down, and I have talked to certain feminists in the past about that, and that's where I decide, you know, hey, men gotta, that's why I say we gotta sweep our side of the street here. We have to become better, and then that way we can. How can you tell a female, how can you tell a feminist, a slut walk feminist, that she has to, these guys are so hypocritical. How can you sit there and tell her that she has to have a sexual morality when in fact you have no sexual morality yourself, because you are the sexual entitled male? How can you?
It's a good point.
How can you even begin that? No, that's why Mgtow was we were the monks. Because we can go there and say, hey, you got to clean up your side of the street. I'll clean up my side of the street. And that's what the monks are about, cleaning up our side of the street. But now I can take the high road and go, you clean your side of the street too. It's an effective approach to feminism. Their side of the street, the MRAs and those guys that are these in the TFM crowd and all that crowd, they have no right to say them things. They're hypocrisy. They're in the women, they see it as hypocrisy. They laugh at them. They're making Mgtow into a joke because they made it into hypocrisy, and we are not a joke here.
And I think, you know, some of them are crafty and hip and intelligent enough to know what they're doing, but they trudge on, or they continue on anyway because they, you know, there's a profit in it for them, or there's attention in it for them.
Yeah, there's a profit. There's some I don't know what it is for them. How long have we been going? Because I want to clip that part out where I explain that.
Why?
Because that's an important part of my message, you know, and maybe it's my message, and that's the same message I've been saying from the beginning, but that's a very, very important part of my message about how we're going to make that better, you know. And a lot of the guys don't get it. They go down that they think the shock and awe. When they see the shock and awe, that's what I see. These guys, they see the shock and awe of being able to say things harshly and strongly, but they're not connecting that with the aesthetic of being able to take the high road on that. You have to have that to be able to say that.
and they won't see it because and it's interesting going back to narcissism. So what I've seen is that, you know, the MRA, the anti-feminists, the shitlords, the Pakistanis, that's exactly what they do. They constantly project, and it's funny, inception moments, if you've ever watched some of their content where opponent, some, you know, liberal or, you know, fucking feminist or a teenage feminist or something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll make like a little ponich with the loud horns and the Ben Shapiro with the gangster shit on. And they'll be like, no self-awareness, talking about the feminists. And then they'll continue. And then if they do add, you know, some sort of narration to shit, they always fall into the same thing.
They always fall into this.
And
yeah.
By and large, not only is there like sexual entitlement, there's other entitlement. So half the time, you know, these people are this, that, and the third. They're all statists, and they're all in a roundabout way begging, pleading, and demanding that the state enforce their silly ideas. Anti-statist, that they're anti-system, that they're anti-anything, particularly.
Right.
They just want their bullshit to be at the top. They want their bullshit to be, you know, basically oppressing everyone else.
Right.
They don't give a fuck. As long as their shit is enacted, they're fine, and that's why they'll never stop bitching. Mgtow is inherently different. We're not demanding the state do a goddamn thing.
No, we're saying
not a
it's
thing
cultural,
at all.
Cultural thing where if we bring back certain cultural aspects of the decent male, the stoic male, the considerate, you know, without the sexual entitlement, without all the saturation from all the paraphernalia, the garbage that gets pumped into young boys' lives, you'll have a more normalized male. But if this continues, and it's their own fault, they're doing it to themselves out there. The media is doing it to themselves. The media is complaining about something they're doing to the boys, and they did it. You know.
You know, if there's one, here's what I find really interesting that kind of puts in everything together, like a convergence of all these myriad of topics that we covered.
Mm-hmm.
What I find appalling and offensive, and I don't give a, or triggered, yeah, I'm triggered by it, enraged by it, is this. What's lost in the gender politics constantly is children.
Yeah.
So while you got the anti-feminists and the feminists going at it, while you got the gynocentric people in power fucking everybody over, and you got people, you know, all these different sides are in this cultural war with each other. Meanwhile, no laws, we already know, it's a given, no laws are being passed that'll help men. Being done to help children either, men and or boys and girls. Mm-hmm. Boys and girls are continue to falling by the wayside, while grown-ass people demand and fight with the state to change. The only thing that's one of the few things that I believe in statism that it should do is to help all of us protect our children, and it's not doing that. It's not doing that at all.
No.
You know, I don't know if it's always been like this. Maybe the internet and the way news goes around so fast that, you know, child abuse is at an all-time high. It seems that way. And what does that say about where we are? With all this technology, with all this stuff that we have, we could, you know, you could literally intervene on the next sociopath. You could intervene on the next killer. You could intervene on the next wretched soul who lives a life of misery and probably will take it out on someone else. They're the empty vessels, you know, and what do we do with that? Nothing. Like, so, and I say we, but in a societal context. As society, we continually fail these children. And I find that appalling because everybody's far more interested in politics and religion and gender dynamics and all that bullshit, you know? And
right, that was my point this morning.
That offends me to no end. I can't, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm about to go off on a tangent.
Okay, yeah, my point this morning, that's what I seen. They were talking about Goodfellow and his arrest. And I
Goodfellow was... I'm sorry, I missed part of that. What was that?
Goodfellow and his arrest. He was arrested last week or whatever for his. But when I looked at the comment, his comment in Nature, and he was kecking it, was is a religion's going to drive a truck bomb into a gay parade. That's what he was saying in his comment. And he didn't think there was anything wrong with that. That's why he was arrested, and it's become an issue. And they were all going, "Oh yeah, the state's crazy." No, the state's not crazy. We're not talking about stupid people here. They arrested him for a reason, and he couldn't see why he was getting arrested. He had so normalized that kind of alt-right behavior in his life that that seems like a very normal statement to him. But I was just thinking, yeah, I would arrest you too for making that statement. But when giving 100 videos of evidence before that and 100,000 texts that he made about how he hates the gays, how he hates the, and how he'd like to do things to the Muslims, and how he, he's got that very alt-right thing. Yeah, with that statement, it's not just that one statement that's the one he got caught for, but they're going to be going through all of his stuff now, and they're going to see the real narcissist, the real hate monger there within him, and they're going to bring every little thing up through that, and he just couldn't see it. But that's a bigger issue than like I said, we had 49,000 gun deaths in this country, or gun violence acts in this country this year alone.
Mm-hmm.
And what's a bigger issue? That or that, but we get carried away with all that. It's just gender politics where he's always angling at, and it defeats anything he's trying to say or do. He just defeated in his ludicrous behavior. But that's more important to a lot of these people than some of the real subjects, and the whole Trump parade show, and the yellow journalism and the sensationalism and everything, and then all the other more important things get lost in there, and we try not to look at them. It was just very confusing to me why it was even an issue. I mean,
well, you know what? Every once in a while, when my brain gets, when I need a tinfoil hat, it almost seems like there must be elements somewhere that are all kind of different deviant circles and deviant squads.
Yeah.
Functional and around for a purpose. Is there some group, or is there some secret movement that is trying to make us, humanity devolve or become worse than we already are, or I don't know, just propagate evil, for lack of a better term? I don't fucking know, man. Sometimes it appears that way when you.
Sometimes it appears that way. Yeah. Remember that Brett, the Blonde in the Belly of the Beast was on that Richard Chamberlain, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot his name, but it's not Richard
whatever
Chamberlain.
it was. Yeah, Richard, whatever his name was. Yeah, I can't remember his name, but we were listening to that podcast, and we drifted over into the watching what they were saying in the comments. Do you remember those comments? Those comments are 10 times more horrible than anything that's ever been said in our comment section.
Yeah, because it's they buy. See, here's the thing. Like in the beginning of some of these circles, sort of innocuous. People were just trying to be clever. It looked like intellectualism, even pseudo-intellectualism, was on the rise. And from the outside looking in, that's kind of an alluring thing. If you are somewhat smart or clever, you're like, oh wow, this is my crowd. They do quips and third, but as they get together, the deviant element comes in, and now they're not. Nothing's about for the sake of expanding a discussion or discourse. Now it's just by impressing each other with saying the most fucked up shit possible.
Right. Yeah. And it became very alarming there when I seen that. These are the same people that'll say, Mgtow, you guys say the damnedest things, and you guys are off in rage and everything. Excuse me. But I need a glass of water. But in reality, we're watered down and moderated, and we have an etiquette, and our behavior is 10 times better than their behavior, and these are. But the first thing that comes up is, I guess we become the what is it, the palookas for the MRA. They project, and they go, but look at these Mgtows. they're saying bad things about women, but gynocentrism plays that way. All you got to do is say, he said something bad about a woman, and the whole world believes that you're the villain
then.
Yeah. While all the time we got these deviants and these racists, these alt-righters, and they're horrible people. They're all gathered over there in this big group of narcissistic idiots, and it's just appalling. I don't know. You know, I can see it, and but obviously, that's what we go back to when we said the press has to do their research on this stuff, but they do this sort of this you know, one day skim through research on everything,
Yeah.
and then pick the low ball. You know, like Paul Wilson going off some night drunk. You know, because that's easy. You know. Yeah, well, what can you say? You know, that's why, you know, what we talked about today, and you know, get more focused on this thing, and you know, maybe target our audience a little better, and you know, target our audience, because I don't really care what the rest of the deviant squad over there and that other side of those guys that call themselves Mgtow. Them aren't Mgtows. Them are just MRAs posing.
Yeah.
Whatever they do, I don't care anymore. Let the FBI go and inspect them. We got to get more focused on the guys that, you know, really believe in the way the old Mgtow was, and start tapping into that thing, because once we find it again, that's a huge market. That's what started the whole thing off, you know.
Yeah, and it's possible, but it'll always be, you know, of the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. And you know, for me, and I think you do disagree here, Joe, and that's fine. I'm not trying to cause a fight club with it, but
Nah.
I think I don't have a problem with it being fringe of a fringe of a fringe, because the more you distill, the more you distill, the more you distill, the more pure it gets. And those are the kind of cats that, you know, I'd like to, you know, to share a conversation with. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not. But I say that on one level, but you know what? I get reactive on the other level, because you know, I am fucking human, quite flawed. I'm not a fucking Vulcan, and when shit that I find, you know, morally reprehensible, I will fucking react, and I want to do something to defeat it. Which I guess kind of makes me a bad Mgtow, because I should be walking away from those things. But how can you walk away from? We're not just talking about, you know, a bunch of grown ass adults. Sometimes we're literally talking about children, and I'm not ready to surrender that part of my base instinct, is to stop protecting my own child, and by extension other children as well. I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm not going to walk away from that, you
No,
know.
no, because if you do Mgtow right, then those things kind of naturally blend. You know, your good fatherly instincts, the good advice that you can give your children, how you defend them, and how you don't defend certain things that you know to be wrong now. Yeah, that should all blend in very peacefully if Mgtow's done right. But the other side of Mgtow, that stuff gets, you know, we have guys like Tilder talking about neonatalism and how they hate children and all that stuff, and that's just weird. I think that's where the skeptics will take it. That's where that crowd will take it, the deviant crowd. But you know, hey, that's the fringe. That's always been that's more mainstream, I think, and because people are so oversaturated with what's been normalized with their sexual activities, and it's just getting worse. Now on the other side, we have feminists trying to teach you know, little kids about homosexuality, and really delving into the making love part of what they teach kids about sexuality in school. You know, it's like them people are fucking freaking just as crazy over there.
And it's weird. I mean, you know, back in the day, you know, largely for Christians and the a very different kind of right, a very different kind of conservative. They were like, hey, we don't want people teaching our kids about this, and they did it from a place of piety.
Yeah.
But damn it if they weren't somewhat correct, because this shit, like, this is the textbook definition of a slippery slope, and it's not a fallacy. It's a real life thing. Once you put the state in charge in any capacity, teaching your children, heavy subjects, because it's sex and sexuality is not a light subject.
No.
Being in charge, man, you know what? You almost, society and parents almost deserve what they get. Why would you surrender that to the state? It's retarded. It's absolutely retarded. I mean, if you are like this, you are pious and you never mention it, and then your daughter, gets paraded at 14 as an act of rebellion, that doesn't make sense either. Obviously, we've learned these different approaches by now, where the thing is that and you need to wipe away all that fucking taboo and bullshit with talking about it, and talk about it in a very straight up, realistic way, and kids will respond to that, much better. Right? Because if you leave it up to state, what do we got now? What the fuck do we got now? We got kindergartens being read to by transsexuals.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that a thing? It makes no sense.
That makes no sense. That's the very definition. They don't know the difference between. They don't know the difference. They don't know the difference from one side from the next anymore, and they're trying. They see it as some it's pseudo intellectualism that they've convinced themselves that that's the way to do it. No, it is the parents' responsibility to talk to their children about those things at a certain point in their life. Whatever you decide, that's the point. Whenever your child starts displaying those, and I know for some children that's very young. Why you do a TV block? Why you do a you can't watch Hulu because you can't be responsible watching Hulu. Yeah. You do those the PG block on it and everything. That's your responsibility. I don't want no. I feel horrified. Some other person talking. Coming into telling my kids about deviant behavior, and then they will start trying to push that deviant behavior back. It's always to push it to the next level, the next level.
I mean, to make the next guessing guess. So, if it's become normalized for the gender benders to read to our kindergartens, and it's become normalized for, feminist narratives to be part of, sex ed, and to teach boys not to rape, at some point it's going to be normalized, like, boys not to rape, then they're going to have the S&M course. And you're going to confuse the shit out of these kids. I mean, they're just going to walk out of these schools being completely, like, fucking more. We're creating, lost fucking generations of kids with this. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, when all they really have to be teaching is a good proper etiquette, and what we talk about, what we don't talk about, and what's taboo and what's not taboo.
Yeah.
That's it. You tell your child, no, that's taboo. That's taboo for a reason. There's no other explanation than that. That's wrong to talk like that. And that's what they carry on in life. That's what will build them a good moral and ethical background, and that's what will keep them safe.
And see, this is where things get really fucking murky, and why we need to take some of the talks into these private hangout rooms is because, we live in a world where we literally have 9, prepubescent kids are doing, sexual changeovers with hormones and surgeries and all that because of their fucking, basically their child abuser parents. That's a form of child abuse. Like and I don't care if we're conferring with the children and what they want. They're fucking children. Like, our species is really strange because we have children. It takes for us so long to fucking get a clue.
Yeah.
Sovereign animal. Like, we're not very good. And, that's why we created the systems the way we did. Now you're encouraging that they get a say in everything, including what they're going to fucking be. It's a form of child abuse. But here's the thing. Because, like, the Mgtow message is getting, as a reaction, seems to organically be meeting. Because I heard one of these teenage Mgtows the other day talk about a 9-year-old person, Mgtow. And to me, that just blows my mind. Like, I don't even know what the fuck do we do with that information? And if they're interested and they find the Mgtow 101s, oh shit, what's being created there? You know, if that 9-year-old stumbles upon a Messenger Rising, fucking A, that's fucking awesome. But if he's going to more likely stumble upon a Sandman, Mgtow 101, Howard Dare kind of character, then what? Mind you, if he's online and looking at adult shit and the weird side of YouTube and Mgtow, he probably has a single mom that doesn't give a fuck anyway. So we can assure that he doesn't have any positive male figures in his life that he could ask, you know, and parry these strange ideas for a 9-year-old child. This is very
no one ever took
how do we address that?
Yeah, no one ever took the time to set up a PG block on their computer or their TV set. Oh, of course they're going to get oversaturated. They're going to be asking a lot of questions. But that's not our responsibility to answer. And I always say it's 18 or over here. You know?
And it's weird. It's like, you know, here's the thing, like this thing, I keep saying it's not gonna hit a tipping point in the mainstream. It's certainly gonna make a splash, but if it's left to the shills to make that splash, we're in trouble, you know?
We're in trouble. We are. Yeah. How long we been going here?
Yeah, we can wrap it up. I'll still talk, but you know, the live thing, I'm not on my game tonight for, you know, performance fucking bullshit. So I don't really care.
Yeah, you know, we kind of just did this on the cuff because I seen some frustration on MT3's part, and I know he wanted to say what he wanted to say there, and he just got frustrated with the mechanics of Google, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna wrap this up for the night. And I hope somebody got something out of this. There is a certain etiquette with the Mgtow monks, and we like.
Joey screams no.
No.
All right, I'm sorry, Joe. Well, can we go on? What do we got? What do we got here? Yeah. I got my mind splintered off in 1,000 different directions. I'm not sure how useful I am on the stream tonight.
Yeah, we're just gonna give you because there's just kind of a impromptu thing. But tomorrow, well, Friday, we'll have Friday Fight and Friday Night Fight Club, and we'll do that, and probably someone will come on tomorrow too. I'm trying to get back into.
Tomorrow, here, let me put a plug in. Me and Messenger tomorrow gonna have part of my haphazard interview series, Messenger Rising me tomorrow night. So it's gonna be a late night for everybody on the States. It's gonna be like between, I think, like 9, 12, depending on where you are. So just go to my channel, you'll see the schedule for it. So
okay, great. Yeah, that'll be great to listen to. So we'll keep it going tomorrow and everything. But you know, maybe I'll start making a little more. I've been pulling off these last few weeks because I've been trying to I've been doing the neuro-Darwinism thing, and I've been reading a lot, and that'll put your brain into a like overload, you know. Yeah. And you know, I still have to sort everything out that I've read in the last month, and there's just kind of little segments, and I'll put it together in my brain and everything, but that takes time. Nothing happens overnight, and you'll get back on my regimented routine of doing podcasts and everything and making videos. I can hardly even make a video anymore. It's just it takes too long. It's not timely for me, and it's it takes too much effort, and I can't put everything I want to put into it, and it's just hard for me lately with every direction I'm taking. And I know you feel the same too. Sometimes we get information overload.
Oh yeah.
And then that's when you got to slow down and process things in your life. But that'll come around, and winter's a good time to do that, to slow down and ask yourself some questions, do the introspections, and what did you learn from that course? What did you learn from what you read there? And put all that stuff together and see if it matches with your Mgtow. And if it does, that's great. And it should. All roads do lead to Mgtow, and Angular Mgtow may be right on that one. But I think you stole that from somebody else. But with that, thanks for coming around, guys. And thanks for
thanks. Peace.
Peace, and most of all, thanks for being Mgtow. Mgtow.